Okay, I think we're good now.
I think we're live.
Yeah. Okay. Chubby, how you doing today, my friend?
Pretty good. Yeah, just woke up like literally 20 minutes ago.
All right. Yeah, Japan. Because you've been working late. You take a lot of late
Yeah,
night calls over there with the time zone difference, right?
yeah, that's just something that you have to live with if you are serving a global audience, right?
That is very true. That is the life of the digital nomad, the creator in 2025. Yeah.
Exactly. Especially when Europe and the US and all these different countries keep switching time zones and then keeping that in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm on the West Coast, so that doesn't make things any easier for us, but we do what we can. I think there's like a day difference, but hey, we're here and we are talking today about researching social media without falling into the comparison trap, and how to do that, because that's something that I've been struggling with myself lately. I've started to branch out onto different platforms, and ones like Instagram, where I think there's a big culture there of kind of showing your wins, right? And you start to see like all of the things that people are talking about, they've accomplished and everything, and you start to think like, what am I doing? Am I kidding myself by even trying to climb this mountain? It just seems like everyone's so far ahead. But it's important, I think, to be aware of what's going on. If you're going to try to create content for these platforms, you have to know what's working and what's the type of content that consumers are used to consuming. So it's a difficult balance to strike as a creator, as a trying to do this professionally.
Absolutely. It's like I don't think it's any different from any platform. Like X is a lot about the flexes and the let's fake celebrate each other in the comments, and yeah. So especially when you're like, yeah, but I'm not here to like spend 3 hours of my life just engaging and then manipulating the algorithm. It's pretty hard, right? Seeing how well people are showing us that they are doing, because so much of that isn't really the truth. And I think that's always the first thing we need to realize, that it's still social media, it's still like high school, where the coolest one is the one that gets the clients or gets the attention, gets the engagement most of the time. I think Gary Vaynerchuk said that once, and I've seen it like multiple creators talk about this too. And it's just something that I posted about yesterday too. How do you make sure that you play the game so the algorithm puts our stuff in front of others, so you see what's working and then kind of align your content a bit so that it fits into that culture. I love that you use that word. But at the same time, how do you still stay true to your word, don't sell your soul to the platform, and then get to showcase your personality, whatever is unique about you, so that you attract people with authenticity and not just with the how to make this reel go viral kind of tactics.
Yeah. Yeah, it's challenging because it seems as though the people who are talking about all of their wins, those are the people who grow and are successful. So it's hard when you're trying to not create that envy in people. I think when you're trying to grow, it's like people, I've heard it said, people buy from someone they want to be like, or they want to get what that person has, right? So that's why it works. It's that lifestyle branding. It's like what's the word? Lifestyle marketing. That's the word I'm looking for. You see people online who have done that for themselves, these personal brands. And, if you're a fitness trainer, like being absolutely shredded, like will certainly help your business, because people assume if that guy looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger, I want to train with him, right? that doesn't necessarily mean he's the best trainer. Doesn't necessarily mean he's done the most research and is the smartest and most effective. There's a lot of like professional athletes who train with trainers who just look like average people. They're the best at doing what they do, but they're not necessarily the best specimen of that collective knowledge they have. But when you're online, you're trying to build a personal brand. When you live what you're selling, I think it is a lot easier to get clients, and that's why people show off like that.
And I think it's you see it on X, you see it on a lot of platforms, how it's like, I think we talked about it before, how it's a whole pyramid scheme. So it's always the people who talk about growth and how they made their reels viral and how they have so much money, the ones who get the more money, or the ones who get the more like people who are interested in that stuff. So it's obvious to see those pages pop off. But if you're not the type of person who's like selling money or selling growth, it might be harder to see that growth, or it's harder to compare ourselves to see why do I still have like 600 followers when someone has already popped off like 2 months ago, when it's just because that person is talking about the exact thing that they achieved. So I think learning to disassociate from like how well people are showing the audience that they are doing, and then how you build your own business with the ups and downs is important, because I don't think those creators are doing any better. I don't think those creators have like consistent max 6-7K cash flow and don't have any difficulty in their business. And I think disassociating from the highlight reel is super important.
Yeah, I agree. I find I get frustrated when I'm consuming more than I'm creating. When I get distracted and my day starts to go down that spiral, that rabbit hole of the internet, and I'm seeing all these different people's highlight reels, I waste hours and I'm not creating my own content. And I start to lose focus in terms of what it is I'm building, the type of content I want to create. And even the content I start creating right after that starts to look more like other people's. And that's when it's misaligned. I think that's when I get less of a response from people. It's just not coming from that like source, that inner, that inner voice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. I love how you put it, how it kind of infects our like authentic voice, right? And the message itself. So have you tried like anything to counter that?
Yeah, screaming. No, I'm just kidding. Scream therapy. Anything to counter that. I mean, just stepping away from the desk, just getting some fresh air oftentimes clears my head. But ultimately, I think once I come back from that, clearing my head, I need to start creating again. And once I get back into my content, and usually something will show up that kind of gives you that encouragement. Like somebody will write like, "Thank you so much for posting this," or "I really loved your newsletter." And it's just it tends to come just in time, But I think that's the kind of stuff that matters. That's the kind of stuff that's important. And I don't know if I would want to trade getting messages like that for huge follower counts or likes. Because I do look at some of these creators who are getting all of those comments and likes. If you look at the comments, they're not really kind, even for the people who are very successful. They tend to be, mean-spirited. And I haven't really received that in my own journey. I thought I would. I thought I would have sooner. But it's been entirely positive. So I'm sure I'll come up against that at some point, but I believe I'm attracting people who want change and who are genuinely seeking guidance. And so they're not commenting like that. They're giving me, reinforcement to keep going, and they're getting benefit from it. So I don't think I'd trade that for, for the higher numbers. I think when we talk about impact, that's more important.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, and I think this is so important to touch upon, because so many people are like, I don't know what to say and I don't know how to say it in my content. And they constantly think about, okay, what is that next post? How do I phrase this in a better way so they get it? And there's this frustration in a lot of creators. And yeah, people never ask the question, so who am I speaking to? Like, can I get crystal clear on the type of person that this message is to? Because whether you like it or not, the type of people you attract to your audience is 100% your responsibility. It's based on what problems you speak about, what relevancy triggers you mention. So if you don't like the audience that you're attracting, change the way you speak. Get really clear on who that person is. And I'm not saying you're gonna avoid like negative comments, because I do tend to focus on like the committed, serious people who are like, yeah, they do want to change, they do want to learn how to grow, but you are gonna get viral sometimes on the wrong end of a platform, because I've lived that experience and I've, come out stronger. But I think it's less about avoiding it, but maybe focusing really on and holding our attention on the positives. We tend to, like, our brain tends to amplify and make us, I think, 4 times more alert to anything negative. So it's up to our conscious attention, right? Whatever is important for us. And it's definitely not whatever some randomer thought they would hurt us with, because they were just so unhappy and unfulfilled in that moment that something triggered them about us, instead of focusing on the people we can actually help.
Yeah. We lose focus. We start focusing on peers rather than potential clients or consumers of our content. I agree. I wanted to take this moment, if anybody's watching, tuning in, feel free to comment. We'll see the comments here. We'll pull them up on screen and we can answer them. Don't be shy. We always welcome comments. If you're on X, or I think I posted it to LinkedIn as well, there's a link there that you can actually come and join us here if you want to like get in the studio and hop in the chair and talk a little bit. We'll welcome you in the studio as well. But yeah, Chubby. So I think I've been kind of in this swirl of the research on social media, and also all that's been going on with AI and the AI generated content. And I realized something, that whenever something new comes out, new technology like AI, or these new iterations of OpenAI and how much better they each get each time, it kind of raises the baseline for what is expected from the consumer end. People start to look at that and think that this is what they should receive from all creators, right? And so you end up having to like adopt those new technologies and adapt to it and figure out like how to do the new hard thing, right? It's like it used to be hard to create your own like graphic art, right? Now people can do that with Midjourney or ChatGPT within seconds, right? And so you're seeing that everywhere. And now that's just going to become like the new baseline, and people are just going to look past that. They're not going to think much of it now. So you have to kind of figure out what the new hard thing is.
Yeah.
Using these tools. And I think that what can be a little daunting for a creator sometimes is like, you're always constantly having to figure out what the new hard is, and mix that in with everybody kind of showing off their highlight reel, and it can be a little bit overwhelming, I think. So you know, that's the reality I think that a lot of creators struggle with, and people don't really talk about it. They don't talk about like, you know, how it can be mentally taxing, but you know, it is real. It's like, it's this journey that people have to go on, but they don't think they're gonna get sympathy necessarily, because like, who would feel sorry for a content creator with like, you know, 1 million followers on Instagram? I mean, if they even have that, but like, or they're real, but
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think, yeah.
definitely. Yeah, this kind of like the next big thing, that silver bullet, right? That people think that is gonna like change everything and save things. That has always been there. Like I remember the time when Reels started in like 2021, and how people were really reluctant to keep posting videos. Instagram was a photo app, right? People were like, come on, you're like killing the whole point of Instagram by adding videos. And then now I think it's the norm. So people go on there and it's like basically a TikTok copy, where people see a lot of videos instead of the photos. And then people who do photos more, they move to other platforms. So I think it's part of, like, it's not like we are living in a different period now. This has always been like this, right? Something different is trending. There are platforms that get a lot more reach, that have better algorithms. You know, people have been flocking to LinkedIn for the last 6 months or something. Before that, it was just it was like, I don't know what the word is to describe it. It wasn't really a platform for running your own business and making connections, like true, real connections. So I think it's whether we like it or not, it's something that we need to be always on the lookout for. What is a way that I can find a way to adapt, but at the same time not burn out, because I'm not, like, I don't want to make content creation my full-time job. I want to make working with clients, right? Improving, refining my offers, focusing on the business part, the actual money-making activities, and not learning the next social media skill, which I think is where many times, because it's a lot, quote unquote, easier to focus on the content creation part, people tend to ignore the money-making part, the offer refinement, the messaging refinement, and all the other things that actually move the needle. What do you think?
I agree. I do think that when you do have the business and you're trying to get more reach, it does become something that you want to figure out, right? Like, certainly there's a lot of people out there who are getting a lot of reach and don't have the business figured out. And they're still like, you know, with thousands and thousands of followers, not making very much money. And then you have people with smaller reach who are making more money than that other person, but they're still not getting the reach they want. And so that's when I think you have to go and do the research and kind of figure out these different platforms, figure out how to create content that gets people's attention on these platforms. And that's when you start to slip down this slope of, okay, who's getting attention on this platform? Why are they getting attention? Okay, well, they're showing off a lot. This guy's talking about, you know, join the creator economy, and he's getting into a Ferrari, right? And, you know, this guy is, you know, living, or this woman, whatever, is living at the top of this penthouse apartment in Dubai, right? So that gets people's attention. Going back to what I said earlier, people want to buy from someone who has what they want. And I think selling a lifestyle of financial freedom and autonomy is appealing. I mean, that's appealing to me. That's one of the reasons I entered the creator economy, to not have financial limits set by a capped salary, right? So I can understand that. But at the same time, a lot of those people who create content like that, I don't think really deliver on that promise. It's a little bit scammy. It's a little bit like, you know, misleading in terms of,
because it's surface level, right? Like, what does it mean to be able to drive a Ferrari? How is their inner world on a daily basis? How do they wake up? Do they wake up fulfilled? Is that pool on the top of their penthouse really making them feel like they are living into their purpose, or are they just showing it off because that's what gets the likes and the clients? So I think what is really missing, I do believe that yes, we do need to focus on learning how different platforms work and how to play with the algorithm, but we can always use it for our own advantage. First of all, not rely on social media posts as a way to sell, as in building a community or your own newsletter as well, where you kind of gather your tribe, which is again something I don't see too many people actively focus on, using their content to build their newsletter. People aren't gonna sign up for a newsletter because you tell them sign up for my newsletter. If they see the different benefits of what they would get, you show more of yourself and how what you provide, what you talk about is something unique, you can expect people to sign up. And how many times do I see, oh, sign up for my newsletter. There are 150 people already reading it. Okay, why would I sign up? Like, give me a reason. I love, like, reading XYZ's newsletter, but give me a reason to sign up. Because people are trading, they already have like 30 different newsletters from creators. They really have to make that decision. And the second thing that came up when you talked, and that something that I'm a full believer on, is not the attention of everyone. Like, we don't just want to get in front of everyone, because I'm sure you and I both don't want to work with people who work with us because we have a Ferrari or because we show that we just had a vacation on the Maldives or something like that. So what's really important is to make sure that you use everything you can in your content to target that content to a specific audience. So one of the things that has been helping me all the time is to use a specific identity that's somewhere written on your content, whether it's in the title or you just put it up somewhere on the top, because we just don't just want everybody, right? There's no point having, as you said, hundreds and thousands of followers that are not aligned, that are not our ideal clients, that are not potential buyers who are just a few steps away from investing. We cannot sell a problem or a solution to a problem that they haven't had yet, for example. So it's important to target a specific identity of people, because if you keep scrolling and you see someone who's like a cat lover, you're probably not going to associate with it because you're a dog person, I assume. Or if you see content for, I don't know, men who are blonde and they shave their beard, you're not going to be able to associate with that either. It's just, subconscious association in just, a split second. So being able to use a specific audience, a specific identity, is already super helpful, because it also sends the algorithms information that, oh, so these type of people watch this kind of video. That means I'm going to get more of those people with those metrics, those demographics that onto that video as well. So that's super powerful, but we need to be super clear on who we talk about, who we talk to.
Yeah, I agree. I do. All right. Well, how about you? Do you find that you slip into this from time to time? What's your experience been? The comparison trap. Do you fall into it?
So I've been in this I've been on social media for 5 years now. And I think, sometimes you still kind of slip back into it. When you feel like maybe you haven't had the best month, you weren't able to get in front of people, like your reach is down, and you were like, in some way, Andrew, we lost you.
Sorry, I'm still here.
Oh.
Sorry,
Okay.
video.
So I'm just gonna keep speaking then. So sometimes we have this kind of doom scrolling, right? We think that, oh, we just keep scrolling and we will somehow find some sort of information that's going to save us, that's going to help us increase our reach. And these platforms also encourage us to do that, because the more you engage with fellow creators, the more you engage with your ideal client, the more likely your content is going to be pushed out as well. So I do sometimes slip into that. But I think it's important to build up the muscle that helps you snap out of it in like as quickly as possible, because it's not just that it dilutes your message that we talked about in the beginning, but it also gets you in an energy that is coming more from like the victim of like, I don't know what to do, as opposed to someone who shows up as a leader regardless. So building that awareness, and I think we both focus on a lot more aware type of audience, a more conscious audience, is super important. Like you much rather take a walk out there without your phone, or just go for a swim, or go to the gym, or do anything, and you're gonna get a lot more clarity than doom scrolling because something isn't working in your business right now.
Yeah. I like what you said there, switching your mindset from victimhood to a role of leadership. You know, if you are someone who considers yourself a creator, I think you are stepping into a leadership role, and you know, you have to have a clear vision as to where you're going and not get distracted by, you know, this over here or that over there that you see on your doom scroll, as you put it.
You know, everything is an illusion. Not just the fact that the 3D world is an illusion, but the illusion of the life that people are projecting onto us, the highlight reels.
Yeah.
And then if you know anything about the law of assumption, you know that whatever you assume, whatever you tell yourself, the interpretations you have around the world is what creates those internal thoughts and feelings and everything else. So staying in that energy of I'm gonna still show up as if is super powerful. You know, when people fall off the track, even if they try to stay consistent, but then they look for the external for any sort of result, it's easy to use the external to say nothing is working out. The sales aren't coming, more followers, you know, my follower base isn't growing, no one signed up to a newsletter for the last 2 weeks. It's so easy to slip into thinking there's something wrong, people don't see the value in what I have to say, or any other of those inner, you know, what is it called, that self-talk that I think we mentioned a few weeks ago, that then can get us into a stage or a state that is hard to get out of, right? Where people take a few days break, that seems to be a few days, but then because it's a lot harder to get back into a habit, they just stay there, and sometimes that's how the people quit. So I think what's important is to get back into, okay, what do I want to assume? Do I want to assume that no one wants to hear what I have to say, that no one wants my stuff, that no one finds it valuable? Because if that's what I believe, that's what I'm going to put out there. I'm going to put out that content that no one will find valuable. But you are the thinker of your thoughts. And one of the best things we can learn as creators is to become the master of our thoughts and say, whatever came up is just an illusion. What's real is my ability to think. So I'm going to think a new thought. And as long as I can, I'm going to automatize that thought so that I'm not corrupted by the external world.
Yeah, I like that. There was something that occurred to me, I think it was yesterday or today. The people that I'm talking about, these people who are creating that superficial content, they're not the same as the type of people that I think you or I are trying to reach. We talk about conscious creators, spiritual entrepreneurs, people who like are guided by purpose. And I think that's when you're that type of person, it's easy to get upset when you go out on a platform to try to make impact and you find that you're actually on a playing field with people who are playing a different game and you don't realize it. Those people are solely trying to run a business. Like you are bringing morality into this, and there's really not room for morality in how they're operating. And that's not saying like that they're necessarily an evil person. They're just looking at it from a business perspective, and it's unemotional. It's a numbers thing. They're just trying to make money. So they kind of don't care if they use sleazier sales tactics if it works. Like, look at a lot of these people out here who are like really big on like cold DMing, right? They'll talk about, oh, it's just a numbers game and cold DM people. They don't care about annoying people. They don't care about burning the platform, making X a less desirable platform for people to be on because their DMs just get flooded with, cold DMs. For them, it's just about the business. And when you're this type of conscious creator, you come into it and you want to do good. So when you see other people who are succeeding who don't have that moral, vulnerability, however you want to put that, it can be disheartening. But I think you have to come back to your purpose, come back to what's guiding you, what got you into this in the first place. If it is impact, if that's truly why you're here, that has to be your center. That has to be your anchor.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that doesn't mean that, I think we talked about this before. That doesn't mean that we should avoid like sales, psychology, and learning all those different things when they feel true to you, when they come from a place of transparency and honesty and authenticity. Then of course we need to keep using all those things to get people's attention, to make sure that they are in an emotional state to invest in all these other things. Because if there were those people were not there, I'm sure just showing up authentically would work. But we need to be able to appeal to the type of audience that doesn't know us, that that keep scrolling. And then how do you make sure that you get those people's attention, the right people's attention? What I do agree with what you mentioned, can you hear me? Sorry.
Yeah.
Because my internet might be breaking up a bit, is that yes, as long as we show up as those people who are really clear on their purpose, right? They have a clear vision. They show up as leaders. We can combine the two and use that to our advantage. Instead of saying, oh, I don't want to be persuasive because I don't want to force anybody. That's not about persuasion. It's not about forcing anyone. It's not convincing. I think people tend to confuse the two. But I think what the biggest struggle is ultimately is, how do I phrase it? Like, basically winning with your personality, right? Winning with what is different about you, whether you communicate it, whether it's in your messaging, in your branding, and how do you make sure that that attracts attention and holds people's attention over the, I've just grown like 300 followers, here's my ebook where I describe exactly what I did type of like posts and everything else. Because I do believe that when you focus on that impact, on the purpose, the money is coming. Like, it's going to come if you really focus on serving and helping. But we need to come to terms with the fact, like, with how money works. That's the first thing I was gonna say. Money is attracted to people who help others with an expansion in life. So whether that person is paying for Instagram growth coaching, or a copywriting service or anything else, that's the kind of person who offers that service is the one who gets it. It's another question. That's a question of their karma, whether they are able to deliver on that and have that energy exchange. But money isn't per se attracted to good people or people who are in service to others. Money is attracted to people who offer, who provide an expansion to other people. So if somebody, if I'm a drug addict and I need some cocaine, if somebody gives me that, I'm going to pay them money. That's an expansion in my life because it's an expansion according to my values. I hope people are not editing this out of context and then putting on the internet. This is just an example, right? So we can get as frustrated about like, how do these evil people get money all the time? But that just doesn't allow us to understand how money works. And that's why I posted about this yesterday too. It's not good people don't get money because they're good. They get money because they're able to clearly communicate and value what they put out there.
Value what they put out there, but also convey that value to people
seeing
exactly. them.
Yeah. I mean, if you value what your value is, then you're going to do everything in your power to communicate that value because you want other people to experience it. You're not holding back from like, oh my God, so they're just gonna show up and I don't have to do anything about my sales, because that's not doing anything either. That's nothing different to people who are cold DMing. You're not showing up for the sale. It has to be both sides. I'm going to do my best to communicate what I offer in a way that's presentable, in a way that makes sense to you at your current level of awareness. And then the client needs to show up with their bank account, with their questions, with whatever questions they have, objections. So learning how to do that, because I care about what I put out there, because I care about the world, because I know that I'm building something that's absolutely valuable in someone and has life-altering effects on someone's life. If I come from that energy, I'm going to do my best to show up and promote it, even if it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, you said a lot there. I think there's definitely some nuance to that, figuring out how to convey that belief, that transformation that you're talking about. Yeah. Anyway, so if anyone's watching this, I'll just say it again. We are welcoming comments. Feel free to comment on whatever platform you're viewing this on, and we'll pull it up on the screen. We'll answer it. We love comments. Shelby likes to do. He likes to point down. But yeah, you can also join the live chat. I posted on Instagram and on X and LinkedIn. So there's a link in there, and you can join us in the studio and hop in here. And if you're not camera shy, jump on.
Or if you are camera shy, this is your opportunity.
Exactly.
As well.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you bring up a lot of good points. I think it's important for people to kind of understand value transaction, like people trading their money for whatever services you're offering. They have to be things that people value. And I like what you compared the cold DM to content creation, right? Like if you're kind of phoning in your content creation, then are you really any better than somebody who's just cold DMing without really putting any time or thought into their messaging? So
I think it's something that none of us really think that we get into. Again, something I posted a few days ago. We don't really get into entrepreneurship as like, yes, I want to help. I have built up skills, I have experience, and there's something valuable that I'm here to help people with. And then we get excited about the content creation part. Maybe we get excited about the emails and everything else, but we don't realize how a lot of what determines our success is ultimately what we believe about money, what we believe about ourselves, our values. Because you can earn, I don't know, 200K year, you can have 200K years as an employee. That's different. That's really different, right? To someone who's making money for their own business, who needs to focus on being in alignment with someone who makes money for their business. And that's somehow not clear for us in the beginning. Sometimes it took me like 2-3 years to realize the reason I'm not making more, the reason I'm not making as much as I wanted to, was because I had stories, money stories, that I haven't uncovered. Lots of things around my worthiness, lots of things around not even understanding what money is all about. So getting clear on like our triggers and understanding that it's not like, oh, I just want to help people and I don't care about the money. Because if people say that, I hear this all the time, especially with like spiritual people, right? We're like, oh yeah, but I'm not here for the money. Then you don't understand what money is all about. And it's like, if you say you don't care about the money, first of all, why are you even running a business? Second of all, you're just an immature child who says, I don't want to take any responsibility for my money. And I need to call this out. If someone is in this energy, I get you. I was there. And we all have money layers of the onion to take off. I think we constantly come up against the next ceiling, have difficulties raising our prices, thinking if when we raise our prices, are we going to able to like market it as much as we could at the lower price point, for example. But it's just something that we can learn, and it's not impossible to learn. It's just we cannot do this with conscious, constant hard work, because there are subconscious things all around worthiness, all around exchange of value that are playing against us.
Yeah. Let's take it back to the title of this conversation, how to research on social media. No, I loved all that. I'm not, I thought that was great. I want to circle back to the title here about how to research on social media without falling into the comparison trap, because I think everything you just said is true. Coming into it as a conscious creator or somebody who is guided by purpose, and you're trying to figure out how to get attention for your business. Let's say you recognize that it's a business and you treat it like that. How do you do the research on these different platforms and avoid slipping into that trap? Because you see these other people getting the attention and they're using these tactics that could be considered manipulative. Now let's take the example of what we talked about, sales psychology. So you could create urgency, scarcity, other tactics for trying to compel people to buy. And even if it's something that they want to buy, sometimes people waffle. So using these tactics, you compel them to buy and you give them something that is effective and transformative and gives them what they paid for. They're happy. I don't think either of us have a problem with that. Now you look at somebody on Instagram who gets into that Ferrari and on his video, and he uses that as a tool to sell you on his course. Now, we're competing with those same people who use the sales psychology. We're competing with those people who are using the, lifestyle psychology I just mentioned of getting into that Ferrari. So how do you draw that line? You're looking on this platform, you're doing your research. How do you draw that line of saying, I'm competing with this guy who's using this kind of, shady tactic, this, trick, and I don't want to use that. How do you figure out how to navigate that?
I think you just put on a buy me a coffee link and then expect people to like, I'm kidding. So like sales, there's nothing wrong with sales psychology, right? There is dark sales psychology and the science of manipulation. and there's the science of white psychology, the science of persuasion and influence. And the first thing is to identify as someone who uses sales psychology because you want people to experience your stuff. If you really think that it's what you created, your offer is something absolutely valuable and life-changing, wouldn't you want to use those tools so that people who see the value in it, who you're not really forcing anyone to do anything, right? You just simply show them that they have a choice, and then you know that you are going to deliver 10 times the value that you offer. Why not use it to set yourself apart? But it's about making it feel natural. So communicating it is always about context, right? When people don't give context, which happens many times, people tap out. They have their own interpretations. That's how the brain works. If you don't give me an interpretation of, like, I don't know, why that plant is like leaning into the camera, I would think probably Andrew is living in the jungle or something, and it just has this like studio corner, muted all the animals, and then records there. It's just an example, right? So I can make my own assumptions if you're not communicating that to me. So being able to communicate why you're using certain tactics makes it a lot more authentic. Things like doors to my program are only open for these 4 or 5 days, because after that I'm gonna focus my full attention on the people who actually said yes, because I would rather want to spend time with people who said yes to it and committed to it. There's gonna be future times you can join, but this was the time that I dedicated to it. This is my capacity, and I want to focus on the people who said yes, because that's how I can serve them the best way I can. Things like that. So giving context to why you're doing certain things in your business, something, again, people overlook all the time, is very, very powerful.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm distracted by equipment here. Trying out a new camera, and it's giving me some trouble today.
That's right.
Doing
it in the trenches, right? Live, experimenting. And also looking at the sales, like the sales psychology tactics, and just using it in a way that feels authentic, that doesn't sound like I'm constantly selling, and just offering people a choice. So the if type of, I call it leadership language, the if type of way to invite people on is also incredibly important. So describing a situation, talking about how you worked with a client, how you got them results, and then say, if this is speaking to you, if you're serious about it, if XYZ, then DM me XYZ, or click on this link. And then this way, you're not like shoving your offer all the time in people's faces. Simply, you offer the opportunity for people to step up. And you keep doing that, and then if you do it, you touch on the right buttons that motivate people, not fearmonger, you can expect sales.
Yeah, I think it's true. Yeah. Well, if anyone's watching and you have questions, by all means, post a comment on whatever platform you're watching on, or join us in the studio. The links should be there for you to kind of hop in here with us. If you're camera shy, or if you want to get over your camera shyness, now's the time. Chubby, so where are you in Japan right now? Every time I see you, you're in Osaka now. Okay.
Yeah.
And then ultimately, where are you going to be landing?
Ultimately.
In Japan, at least on this trip.
I'm going to probably be mostly in Tokyo. Yeah. I used to live there. I have friends there. Yeah. And I love the city itself. Yeah. I'm just here because I want to kind of ride out the cherry blossom season. So it's cherry blossom season now that's going to be full bloom in a couple of days. So really excited to go out there and see it. But in Tokyo, especially this year, Japan has the expo. So there's like, I don't know, thousands of people visiting. So I just want to avoid that side of Japan, at least for a few more weeks. And then when tourists start to come here, because the expo is opening at the end of April, I'm gonna go up to Tokyo.
Oh, nice. Great, man. It sounds like a wonderful trip. I was going to say the trip of a lifetime, but I think you've done it before. So
yeah, my life is a trip of a lifetime.
There you go. Perfect answer.
Itself, yeah.
Yeah.
Would you ever want to go, like, visit Japan? Would you ever consider?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And I think the cherry blossom season, I want to be there next year. It's I mean, I've seen photos of it. It's beautiful. So I'm sure you're going to be posting about it, and I'll get to see some more photos. But
yeah. I'll try to like tone it down, because I don't want people like hate me for like keeping on. I'm not the one who's gonna like show off all the time and say I'm selling this lifestyle type of thing. But yeah, it's so, and it's also really important to see like the spiritual meaning of it, like why the Japanese have been celebrating it for centuries, millennia. And it's mostly because it's such a short-lived flower. It has a 2-week shelf life. You get to see it, and then it's blown away by the wind. So the fact that everything is temporary is really what you could learn about the cherry blossom.
Yeah, that reminds me. I like those. Forget exactly what they're called, but Buddhist like sand gardens. So the monks, they'll make sand art in the garden, and they'll spend the whole entire day making this art, and then at the end they just wipe it away. And it's beautiful art. Like you see it and you think like, oh my God, you should save that forever. But their practice is to wipe it away, and it just is that practice of accepting that everything is temporary.
There's also kintsugi. Have you heard of kintsugi?
No, I'm not.
So it's a kind of art that is about like stitching things back together. So especially like I can show you an example. It's really interesting how it's usually about pottery or some sort of ceramic that is about broken objects, and then they fill in the where the parts are broken with some golden paint or something, kind of emphasizing that it is beautiful the way it is, even if it's broken. Yeah, this is also a type of art here, which is amazing.
Yeah, I was reading something similar, just talking about how the beauty is in the cracks, right? It's like that is a bowl that's been used, or a life that's been lived, in a sense.
Yeah, like I always say that to my clients as well. If you have 2 banknotes like having the same denomination, one of them is fresh, really new, the other one has been stepped over, has been crumpled, dirtied, which one is more valuable?
Right. Yeah, I see the one that's been used because it's got
a
story to tell.
It had experience, right?
Yeah. So yeah, we've got a few more minutes left. What's been going on with you? Is there anything else you want to talk about? I mean, I think we can stray from the topic here with the time remaining if we want to.
I mean, why not you talk about what things have been going on your side? I feel like I've been hogging this whole life.
I mean, so I'm dealing with something right now. So in the community I live, it's like this large community here in California that my wife and I live in Orange County, and they have fireplaces in the units, and the landlord is like turning off all the fireplaces, claiming that it's like a liability issue or a safety issue. But really, I think it's like got all to do with like insurance premiums. So they're turning off all these gas fireplaces, and it just triggered me because it's just so frustrating to not have control, to have something taken from you without being able to stop it. And back to working for myself, one of the main reasons I decided to do that was to have more control over what it is I work on, who I work with, how I spend my time, and to still feel like one area of my life has control and another doesn't has just been quite the test for me the last few days. And yeah, that's kind of what's going on. I was dealing with that today right before this call, and if I'm being honest, I think it kind of like threw my focus a little bit for the day. I mean, it's motivating. It's one of the things that's motivated me to get into this in the first place. But it can also be distracting, like when you're right in the middle of it, because I'm someone who considers himself purpose-driven. I want to help other people reclaim control and autonomy in their own lives. And so when I'm focusing on myself and not helping others, and I can lose that center, lose that balance. But that's what I've been dealing with today.
Yeah, life is always lifing, and I think a lot of the times I think what our conversations come down to is really being able to come back to yourself and operate from that personal power, not using the external, doing our best not to, of how you show up and the thoughts that you entertain. I think that's one of the best, most important skills that isn't taught enough to entrepreneurs. The people who are able to, keep going are always the ones who don't get triggered by the external, who can hold that energy and that wealth container as well, and everything, that they can keep going despite whatever is going on.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically what I've chosen to do. It's like I just have to keep going, right? Like I'm building something here. I'm building my business, and I trust that down the road it's all going to work out, right? I wrote something in my blog about this. It was something I read in a spiritual book about thinking of yourself as a miner in a coal mine. People get worried. They want to see up ahead, beyond the darkness, and they have a light on their helmet that lights what's right in front of them, and that's really all you can see, and that's really all you have to worry about. And you have to trust that when you get up ahead to there you can't see now, that your light will be enough to light the way for you there, and you'll see in that moment what you need to see. And that's kind of what I think of when I look at my business. I kind of treat it that way. Like it's a risk. It's nerve-wracking. It's sometimes, to kind of bet on yourself, but I have to trust that it'll all be clear to me in the moment, that I'll be able to light the way with my own light in that moment. So as frustrating as it can be, like you said, lifing, we have to just kind of continue on and stay the course.
Right, the why. So why are you keeping the title of the book a secret?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, I'm not. I think this one was. It's a beautiful. Sorry, let me get the book. I'll actually show it to you. It's. So it's by a guy named Bo Lozoff, and the book is called "It's a Meaningful Life." It just takes practice. It's a meaningful life. By Bo Lozoff. Yeah. He's written a few books that I've liked. Deep and Simple is another one. This one, it's a Meaningful Life, is on audio, which and he reads it himself. He's since passed, but he reads it, and I find it very calming to listen to. And there's
Awesome.
a lot of like great metaphors that he puts in there. He pulls from all the different wisdom texts, as he calls it, from different spiritual texts and religions and philosophies, and kind of puts it all together in a way that's useful in the modern world. And
Wow.
yeah, I find him very
Nice.
inspiring.
Yeah, definitely gonna have a look, because I love not reading the commercial, like, top bestseller books for a reason. So it's
Yeah.
nice to see some of these titles that don't get the attraction that they would deserve.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So I think we're at time here. We have 10 people watching. It's, still sticking around here. But no comments, no questions. That's fine. We'll save them for next time.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, Chubby, as always, I love talking to you, and this was great.
It's a pleasure.
We did it at a different time this week. I think, we're still trying to figure out what time is going to work best for, the different time zones, as we mentioned at the beginning of the call. So, whoever's watching, just keep a lookout. Like, it may change, but, we will figure out a time soon that kind of will be the consistent time going forward. So, thanks for joining us today, though.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Good night.